Thirsty. Webster defines it as having an uncomfortable feeling because you need something to drink. If you're really thirsty, what drink do you crave the most? Water is the most obvious for me, although there have been plenty of times I've opted for a frozen cherry Slurpee, which excited me at first but left my sugar-coated throat longing for water in the end. Is it possible to be thirsty for something to drink and not really know it? I think you know it and can ignore it for a while, especially if you're busy doing something else. Like, I remember some of my competitive basketball games in high school and college. I wasn't about to ask for a timeout from the game just so I could get a drink. Ignoring the thirst was part of winning. I guess you can ignore it for a game, but ignore it for a season or a lifetime, and you're dead. So that's physical thirst, but what about soul thirst? Because Webster also defines thirst as feeling a strong desire or need for something. Feeling a strong desire or a need for something. I think we can all relate to that. I've been remembering the tune from the band called Plum back in the late 90s. The song is called God-Shaped Hole. There's a God-shaped hole in all of us, and the restless soul is searching. You remember that one? So let me ask you this. Is it possible to be spiritually thirsty and not really know it? Again, I think you know it and can ignore it for a while, especially if you're busy doing something else. But for a season or a lifetime? When it comes to spiritual thirst, I don't think the problem is not knowing it. In fact, I think we're all pretty good at Webster's definition, feeling a strong desire or a need for something. I think where we get tripped up is not knowing what exactly it is that we need in order to quench the thirst or that strong desire or to fill that need, that void. This week and next, I'd like us to consider two completely opposite types of people who recognized they had a need or a strong desire and that they were searching for fulfillment they had yet to find until they found it in a person. The first person type is the woman at the well in the Gospel of John, chapter 4. Jesus was passing through Samaria, and at about noon he came to a town called Sychar. Jacob's well was there. Jesus was tired from the journey, so he sat down by the well while his disciples went to town to buy food. Right at the same time, a Samaritan woman came to get some water. Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" The Samaritan woman looked at him and said, "You are a Jewish man. I am a Samaritan woman. Jewish men never talk to random women, especially Samaritan women." In fact, I'm sure she was thinking, Jews never have anything to do with any Samaritans. So how can you ask me for a drink? Jesus answered her, "You don't know what God's gift is, and you don't know who is asking you for a drink. If you did, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you don't even have anything to get water with. The well is deep. What are you talking about? Where can you get this living water?" Jesus answered her, "All who drink this water will be thirsty again. But anyone who drinks the water I give him will never be thirsty. In fact, the water I give him will become a spring of water inside him. It will flow up into eternal life." The woman said, "Well, sir, give me this water. Then I will never be thirsty, and I won't have to keep coming here to get water." Now, time out right there. This seems like she wanted what Jesus had to offer. But admittedly, she was thinking only of her physical needs. I mean, that offer was a no-brainer. Not only would Jesus be saving her the time and energy it took to come draw water, he would save her the social embarrassment she faced from her chosen lifestyle, the public shame that caused her to go there at noon instead of early morning like the other women in town. But Jesus doesn't let her only address her physical thirst. In his kind yet all-knowing way, he told her, "Go get your husband and come back." I don't have a husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "That's true. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you have now is not your husband." How would you answer if you were that woman? "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet." She attempts to change the awkward silence by talking about churchy details like where one should worship, and Jesus doesn't respond with a location. He gets right to the heart of who he is, the Messiah, the one who saves, the living water who satisfies what our souls thirst for from within. So, the disciples returned from town, and the woman, in her excitement, left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone, "Come and see the man who told me everything I've ever done. Could he possibly be the Messiah?" So the people went streaming out from the village to see him, and many Samaritans ended up believing in Jesus because the woman had said, "He told me everything I ever did." So, here's my fast replay of this story. Here we go. Thirsty woman had a need. She thought it would be met in husband number 1, and then again in husband number 2, and then again in number 3, and number 4, and number 5. And why bother even marrying number 6? 1 through 5 hadn't satisfied. Now, maybe I'm just speculating. But thirsty woman meets Jesus. At the one place made to address physical thirst, Jesus takes her beyond it and goes to the heart, to the deep places of her thirsty soul. The thirst that hadn't been quenched by at least 5 relationships she had tried. The thirst that had led her to make choices that left her as an outcast in society. The thirst that had led her to make decisions she most likely regretted, even if she disagreed with society's condescending opinion toward her. So thirsty woman encounters Jesus, and she is changed. She tells the whole town about Jesus, and many follow and have their soul's thirst quenched as well. The end. Do you ever wish the Bible had more details to the stories in it? Or a sequel to the stories that we read? I know I do. Like in this one, we learn that she goes and tells the whole town about her encounter with the living water, and we assume she's changed. But what happens in her life after that? How is her life different a year later, 5 years later, 10 or 20 years later? I wonder this because this is what I have found in my life and in the lives of many Christian friends. Like the woman, we were spiritually thirsty. And like the woman, we made some dumb choices that we later regretted while trying to fill that void. Then we met Jesus and realized he is the lover, the healer, the life giver of our souls, and our thirst was quenched. For a while. But then a month or a year or 5 or 10 or 20 years later, we found ourselves back to feeling the same void. We questioned whether or not our Jesus encounter was real. We feel like just as much of an outsider with happy church people as the well woman was with those in her city. We feel lonely, ashamed, depressed, lost, hopeless, certainly not alive. We wonder how others can actually be so excited about going to church or reading their Bibles or spending time in prayer. Some days we're sure there's something wrong with us, and other days we wonder if there's something wrong with God. I don't know if this well woman ever experienced this, but I know I have at times. And if that's you today, let me tell you, number one, that you're not alone. And number two, that there is tremendous, tremendous hope. That Jesus truly is the living water, and he longs to fill your thirsty soul. I would so love for you to visit this post on my website and read the thoughts and the Bible verses and action steps I've laid out there that might just refresh you or might help quench that longing or bring hope that you will actually taste this living water again. Of course, if you know someone who might be thirsty, please share this video along with the written content with them. I would also like to ask you to leave in the comments on my website some thoughts of your own or Bible verses or action steps that have brought you to experience Jesus' quenching of your thirst. Thank you so much for taking the extra time to watch this video today.